your money can work harder than you can. It can work 24/7. You can't. You need to eat, sleep, go to the bathroom, shower, go out, do things for fun. Your money can just work, 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 work. So you have to put your money to work.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution with Nikki Ballou. Join the revolution. There's never been a better time in history to speak your truth, find your freedom, and make your fortune. Each week, we interview the world's top thought leaders and learn the secrets of how they built a 6 to 7 figure practice. This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou, and boy, do we have an exciting guest lined up for you today. Today's guest is my dear friend, my brother from another mother. He happens to be one of my A-list clients in my top-level mastermind, and this dude is one of the world's top thought leaders when it comes to, wait for it, becoming financially indestructible. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary Michael Santanato. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Man, what a blast to be here, brother. Love you so much. Appreciate you and the love, brother. What a great introduction.
Yeah, you bet, man. So, brother, I know you really well, but the folks on the show don't know you. They're here to learn from you, but before they can really open themselves up to you, they got to get to know you. So tell us your backstory. How'd you get to be the great Money Michael Santanato?
True, brother. I lost $1.5 million. That's how I became Money Michael.
Damn.
Yeah, man. I had an unusual upbringing. My parents were bank managers. They taught me everything about money and finance at the dinner table, along with being a good boy and a hard worker and a good Italian. Get a job, keep the job, stay in the job, all that stuff. Followed their rules, followed their advice. By 22, I was in the stock market, had my first rental property. By 25, I had $400,000 in assets. By 33, I think it was, I had about, $1.4 million in crypto and assets and stocks and everything. And I built it all up really well. And then lost it all, man. I mean, I just did some stupid moves. I just did a bunch of stupid moves. I'll share with everyone happily in the episode all the dumbass mistakes I made so that nobody has to do that ever again. Yeah.
So, brother, you lost a bunch of money, but obviously you also turned it around and, you're in pretty good shape right now. So why did you decide to teach this to other people? Like, why that?
Yeah, a lot of things happen, in every story, there's a lot of ups and downs, failures and successes. I went through a divorce. It was around that time. I lost a lot of money as well. I lost a bunch of money from a divorce. I lost a bunch of money from giving a dumb guy who was a con man who scammed me and about 100 other people out of about $25 million USD. Yeah, myself and about 100 other Canadians and Americans got scammed out of basically a very, very, very sophisticated, elaborate Ponzi scheme. He was paying good money. He was paying us the first few years 100% rate of return. And the FBI and the RCMP, interviewed us, and there's a warrant out for his arrest and all that good stuff. They'll probably never find him. I was doing really well in crypto myself. I had a smart move to buy my first Bitcoin back when it was 3,000 Canadian dollars in 2017. My parents did teach me well about investing. They were afraid of crypto, of course. They would never do that. They're in their 80s now. God bless them, still healthy and alive and well. But me, I got really, really cocky and got away from their basics and their fundamentals and their foundations. I went through 2 times in my life where I followed their wisdom and made a lot of money and then lost a lot, made a lot and then lost a lot. And one was being in business for myself. I had no successful mentors or coaches or advisors to learn from in the business world when I went into business for myself at the age of 25. And I had nobody to lean on for how to be a successful business owner. I had plenty to lean on for how to do well in the career world and, be a good employee and crush it and grow and get promoted and get raises. But when I wanted to be in business for myself, that was when I had my first huge failure and my first business at 25. I went from, several $100,000 in assets to like losing it all in 2 years. I hired people I had no business hiring. I had no sales skills. I had no mentors, no marketing skills, and no real mission and purpose. And that's when I lost. That's when I had my first huge loss at the age of 25. I'm 40 now. And the old adage of, save your money and invest it and grow it and let your money work for you and all that stuff, that works. So I've recovered twice over. I've got a book coming out now. I've been successful as a financial advisor for the last 9 years, taking a lot of what my parents taught me, my own investment experience, my own failures, successes. I've made a lot, lost a lot twice over, and put it into a book. I'm doing really well now. I'm in your top tier program. I freaking love it. I just had my best year in business last year, my best year, crossed a big milestone. Almost.
And you're going to do a TED Talk, right? That's happening.
I'm doing a TED Talk this year, 2026. Super excited. The book is coming out in 2 weeks. Almost crossed 250K last year, and I'm serving people, and it's just growing and growing, and it's getting better and better.
So how did you reestablish yourself financially? And how did you come up with this concept of financially indestructible, which is also the name of your book, I believe, right?
100%. Yeah, that's the book.
You have a copy you can hold up for people to see?
You know what? I'm gonna hold up the iPad because the digital version's out.
The print
version is up in 2 weeks. I'll have it in hand physically in 2 weeks. But at my website, michaelsantanato.com, people can see the book and the cover and all that good stuff. How did I do it? How did I rebuild it? The fundamental financial principles never lie. They'll never go away. They're in great books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and George S. Clason's, The Richest Man in
Babylon. Yeah, sure.
Classic of a book. The fundamentals are there. Number one is produce. In the Bible, it says produce. Number two, it says reproduce. Number three, it says multiply. And number four, it says dominate or, distribute. So those are the basic financial principles in the Bible. One is produce. That means do something, serve someone, help someone, produce something, get a job, sell a client, perform a task, right? Provide value. Number two is do that again. Just do that again, reproduce, right? Number three is multiply. Find a way to multiply that with social media, with an online course, with employees, with other business partners, with other coaches, with other people who can take and replicate the first two steps. And number four is dominate. That's what brands like Microsoft and Apple and Zappos and Amazon do. They dominate the market. Number four, dominate, subdue. It's right there in the Bible. It's subdue the earth. It's bring it under your command, like dominate the market. And you do that with goodwill by providing good value. So those are the first basic steps. That's all about making money. Making money is the easy part. In every YouTube video I've got and all over the book, I say it's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep that counts. So making money is the easy part. Follow those first four steps straight from the Bible, the greatest best-selling book of all time, right? After that, what do you do with the money? You got to keep it. You got to save it. You got to put it towards use. You got to put it towards an investment. You got to start small. Anybody can start small. Anybody can start with investing $50 a month. It doesn't matter if it's $50 a month, $500 a month. Anybody and everybody can start investing. And you have to invest because you cannot save your way to wealth. You must save your money, yeah, but then eventually put it into something, right? Your money can work harder than you can. It can work 24/7. You can't. You need to eat, sleep, go to the bathroom, shower, go out, do things for fun. Your money can just work. So you have to put your money to work. And that's the fundamental principle that my parents taught me. The main one that most people miss is live below your means. A lot of people say live within your means. No, that's bad. You can't live within your means because that means if you make $5,000 a month, you're spending $5,000 a month. No, you have to live below your means. You got to make, let's say, $5,000 a month and spend only 3,500, 3,400, whatever, $4,000, and put the other money to work. Otherwise, you'll be a slave the rest of your life working until the day you die. Those are a lot of the ways that I broke out. Start small, cut your expenses, reduce, put your money towards, working for you in an investment that will grow. Me personally, I love dividend paying stocks. I love crypto. I love real estate. In the book, there's 5 ways to become indestructible financially. There's 5 asset classes.
So I love it. Walk us through that and maybe give us some stories for each. Like give us the 5 ways and maybe a story of like a client or somebody you've worked with for each one.
Sure. Yeah, happily. So the 5 ways are really accessible. There's actually more than 5 ways, but these are the no-brainer, bare bones, dumbed down. Anybody can do it 5 ways to become financially indestructible. Five
Okay.
asset classes, right? The first is gold and silver, okay? Precious metals, all right? And by the way, right now, gold and silver have freaking taken off, which is amazing. A lot of people have
Yeah.
been waiting
I wish
20
I
years for
bought even more, man. Holy crap.
right? So a lot of people are benefiting right now from gold and silver, but that's because gold and silver have taken off, right? So first is gold and silver, super easy, accessible. You can go to a pawn shop, buy some gold and silver. You can go online, buy some bullion, buy some coins, doesn't matter, right? The next is life insurance. And a lot of people don't understand life insurance, and that's okay. A lot of people take it for granted, but the wealthy buy boatloads of life insurance. Why? Because it's an asset that can grow, and it's 200 years old. It originated from farmers and farming, and it basically teaches and shows you like your money can work harder than you can, and your money can work on multiple levels. Life insurance is also one of the most tax friendly, tax beneficial assets that exist, and anybody can start with $100 a month or $50 a month or more. Life insurance, also the investment portion grows at a rate of 6 to 8% return a year. And in the last 60 years, most insurance companies have never missed a dividend payment on that 6 to 8% per year. The other thing is that a life insurance company is, least likely to go bust in a recession or in a downturn or in a depression. Banks are 10 times more likely to go bust than a life insurance company. Okay. Because life insurance has 200 years of actuarial data that says that, these freaking mathematicians who are actuaries, they said that, a person at this age is likely to live this long. And they've got 200 years worth of data over hundreds of millions of people to prove it. So life insurance is incredibly, incredibly secure. The next one is Bitcoin. It's a personal favorite. Everybody should own at least 0.09 Bitcoin in their possession. Everybody should have a little bit of Bitcoin or crypto in their portfolio to diversify. Why? Because it's the fastest growing asset class in existence. It's the highest performing ROI asset class right now in existence. It averages, 60 to 100% a year per year. And Bitcoin is something that produces deflation. So it's a hedge against inflation. Inflation is the rising cost of goods and services over time, which is guaranteed 2% every year for the last 60 years nonstop. But also Bitcoin and technology produces deflation, and Bitcoin is a superior technology than the current financial system. Crypto is a superior technology than the current financial system. So the current financial system, you want to send $50,000, you want to buy a house, you got to go through tons of paperwork, you got to go in person to your bank, you got to sign all these forms, you got to show ID, there's an intermediary, there's all these fees you got to pay. Bitcoin and crypto, you can send $100,000 and it'll be there in 10 minutes or 2 minutes, depending on which crypto you use, and you'll pay anywhere from $1 to $3 in fees. Okay. And you don't have to ask anyone. So it's permissionless and it's borderless, right? I'm in Colombia right now traveling. I'm traveling Latin America, Mexico, Colombia, was in Europe this year for a few months. And I moved money around in seconds from my phone. I didn't have to call or ask anyone, and I paid as little fees as possible. And I did it all from tapping some buttons, saving myself time, money, and energy. So Bitcoin is something that is going to be around forever. The U.S. government is adopting it as a reserve, meaning they're going to put it in their treasury. Most countries already have it in their treasury or are planning it to putting it in their treasury in some form or another. The thing about Bitcoin is that no more will be created. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin in existence ever. And they're not going to make more after that. Okay. So Bitcoin is something that everybody should have. Crypto is where I made my first million. And it is going to be around forever because it's a superior technology. I read in an economics book that technology is a genie that once let out of the bottle was never put back in the bottle. That's how we have to think about technology and crypto. All right.
Yeah.
That's 3 out of 5. You want to stop there? You got,
No,
you got
no, keep
any
going. Keep going.
question? Cool. So Bitcoin's a personal favorite. Crypto's a personal favorite. I'm a millennial. I'm 40. My generation, we understand it. We get it. It's all technology, right? Look at AI. Look at where things are going. The next asset class is one of the oldest in existence, and it's probably made the most millionaires on planet Earth, and that is real estate. Real estate is not going anywhere, right? There's not making any more of it. Similar to Bitcoin, it's very easy to get started. You can buy a simple, condo unit or a rental. You can Airbnb it, you can flip it, you could renovate it, you could rent it out. You can do so much with real estate, and it's only going up in one direction over time, and that's higher prices, right? Cost of living is going up. Look at COVID. Look at what happened in COVID, right? Pretty much all over the world, inflation happened, real estate prices went up. So real estate is really easy to get into, super low barrier of entry, and you can quickly turn one property into a few properties. We all played Monopoly as a kid. The game of Monopoly is super simple. It's how you win in life. It's how you win in real estate. And it's one of the ways you can become financially indestructible. Friggin' Monopoly is super simple. Do whatever you can, beg, borrow, steal, negotiate to get a set. Once you get the set, then you can put houses. One greenhouse, two greenhouses, three greenhouses, four greenhouses, a red hotel, and then more red hotels. Gotta love real estate, super easy to get into. Maybe you can't do it in your city. You gotta go to another city, say in the US or Canada, for a lower barrier to entry, right? You and I are from Toronto, big barrier to entry there. You can go to other cities and other towns and other parts of Canada or the US and get properties on the cheap, right? Really easy to refinance the mortgage and take money and equity out and use that money for good in other ways.
Cool. I like it.
That's number 4. Really easy and simple to get into. Number 5 is everybody's favorite, at least probably those of us that are listening to this podcast, is business, baby. Business. There's nothing like putting your name on something. There's nothing better than putting your name on something and making it yours and building it and growing it, right? Business is the kind of thing that can produce an unlimited amount of money as long as you have the right product and service to sell. As long as you have the right market, the right message, and the right people, the right team, you can build a business that can set you free for life. Business is also incredibly tax favorable. You can take money out as a salary or as dividends. You can take the money out later. You can defer it for later on. You can obviously have it pay for your lifestyle expenses. I was on a flight today, flying in, checked into my hotel a couple of hours ago, and flying business class, and my business pays for that, right? It's a business expense. So business allows you to pay for certain things in your lifestyle, travel, trips, vacations, research, food, meals, conferences. You can learn so much, and it can be a business expense. There's so much that you can write off as a business. But the best thing about business is that it truly, is a system, and that system can pay you for life. McDonald's, that's a system. Coca-Cola, that's a system, right? Doesn't matter if it's Tesla. Like, everything is a system that can be built, that can be sold, that can be licensed, that can be leveraged. You know what I mean? The brands that people are creating these days and the brands that exist are leverageable through licensing, and that's basically effortless. You know what I mean? Passive income through continual client retention, through building a book of business. Myself, I manage over $4 million in assets in TFSAs and RRSPs and RESPs and pensions and LEROs and all that stuff. And that stuff pays me a passive income because I manage that money passively. That's a business asset. And then the clients that I'm building in that book of business, that book of trust, is an asset I can also sell and leverage later on. So there's so many ways to create indestructibility for your personal finances through owning a business, through having a brand that you can leverage, and all the amazing tax benefits that come along with that as well. So those are the 5 ways. Those are the 5 easiest ways. But Nikki, there's other ways like oil and gas. I didn't grow up in oil and gas, but even though everything these days is solar, there's still so much oil and gas that's out
massive,
there,
man.
that's being It's ginormous, right? It's going to be, it's going to be around probably still for another 30, 50, 40 years, maybe even more. It might never go away, right? But that's another asset class that could make someone financially indestructible. But I didn't grow up in Calgary, Alberta, or Texas, or Houston, so I just can't speak to those. But I think out of my years of research, 10 years of being a financial advisor, advising thousands of clients all across Canada and the USA, those are the 5 simple, easiest ways that anybody can get into an asset class that will make them financially indestructible.
Well, what about stocks and bonds?
I'm so glad you asked, brother. I'm thrilled actually that you asked that, because here's the thing. I, I just love that you asked that so much because I addressed that in the book. The thing about stocks and bonds is that they're done through banks typically. Okay, they're typically done through banks, and banks go bust. Right, in 2023, there were three major banks in the USA that went bust. What happens is people lose their money, they can't access their money. There's a bank run, they can't get their money, and then the bank goes bust and bankrupt, and then people have to wait years for the receivership, which is the lawyers, to go through the process to get those resources and those funds back to clients. Doesn't happen all the time, does happen sometimes. It does take a lot of time. And for me, it's just not an indestructible way. And I know you can invest in the S&P 500 through an individual brokerage like Interactive Brokers or Vanguard or whoever, and your individual bank. And they'll probably be around and they'll probably not go bust. But Lehman Brothers did, and Bear Stearns did, and Silvergate did, and Signature Valley Bank did, right? Banks do go bust, and you can create wealth. You can create good money, good assets, and good savings and investments and profits in stocks and bonds. And it is part of a good diversification strategy, yada, yada, yada. Warren Buffett, yada, yada. Of course, yeah, totally. But pensions get lost, pensions go bust, and banks go bust. And so for me, it just fails my indestructibility test, right? Real estate, you can own. Bitcoin, you can own. No one can take it from you unless you have your private keys, right? Business is in your name, you own the corporation, you're the shareholder. That's you know what I mean? You have to die in order for those shares to get passed on to someone else, or you sell it to someone else. But the banks and the stocks and all that stuff, I deal in stocks, and I have stocks, and I like stocks, especially the dividend paying ones. But they just fail my indestructibility test. Life insurance is on you; it's your life. When you die, someone else gets a boatload of money, right, from your life insurance. While you're alive, you get the benefit of growing that life insurance investment at 6 to 8% a year, and you can take it out tax free. You can take a loan against it. You can leverage it, use that money to invest. There's all these other cool things with life insurance. But life insurance is a contract. That's the asset, is the contract between you and the life insurance company. And it's legally applicable to be held up in court. You know what I mean? So for those reasons, stocks and bonds just kind of fail my indestructibility test. That's what indestructible means, right? That's what indestructible means. It means non-negotiable, non-messable with, non-fuckable with. It's indestructible.
All right. So tell us a couple stories about clients that you've worked with these principles.
So Alex and Mariana they're like my dream team. They currently live in Italy. They were born and raised in Italy, moved to Canada with their family when they were young. I met them in Canada. They lived in Woodbridge. They had a house in Woodbridge, two young girls, 8 and 5, Mia and Milena. And I love them so much. I became so close with them. They had a typical Italian big house, home. And the husband, awesome. Alex, was a bus driver, worked for the TTC, making good money. And his wife, Mariana, mostly focused on the kids, but had a small job doing like payroll, making like $40K a year. So he had like a 6-figure salary. She had a $40K salary. So right in between, they're $140K each. I met them in 2018, and I started working with them then. And they used to say the funniest things. They're super humble, just diligent, hardworking, cash saving people. And Alex would always say, I'm just a stupid bus driver. I'm just a stupid bus driver. I don't know anything. And his wife, God bless him, so humble. Me and his wife would always say, you're not a stupid bus driver. They were great at saving cash, putting away cash. They lived below their means, like good, hardworking people. And they didn't go out and splurge. They had 2 cars over 10 years old. You know what I mean? So in working with me over several years, I was able to help them shift their mindset, because a lot of people think that, your house is an asset, but it's not an asset until you use it in the right way. I had to tell them, and I had to knock on the walls, because it was a multi-million-dollar home in Woodbridge, right? Big home. I had to knock on the walls and tell, you have all this money in these walls. You have all this cash in these walls sitting there doing nothing. I would knock on the wall. I'd say, you got to put this money to use. You got to put this money to use. It's just sitting there. You've got all this equity you're building up. Yeah, you're humble. Your job is to, you're just paying down the mortgage, but it's not doing you any good. Everything is backwards. A house is only an asset when it's used the right way. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, says a house is not an asset, it's a liability. Anything that takes money out of your pocket is a liability. An asset puts money in your pocket. So through the several years of working together, I helped them invest in some crypto. I helped them invest in some different assets for their kids, education savings plan for their kids. which is stocks and mutual funds and segregated funds. But they had two girls, want to give them a good education. And then I got them to take that money and put it to use. So a lot of mindset shifting. I do a lot of education when I work with clients in my programs. Took a lot of time, a lot of dinners. They cooked me a lot of pasta, a lot of feasts. We had Italian feast. I'm not complaining. I'm Italian. At the dinner table, meeting with their kids, talking with them. And over the years, we basically got them a nice crypto portfolio. They were able to retire from their jobs. They got their pension and took it privately and invested it themselves. So their pension company, cannot jeopardize it. They put a lot of money to work for them every month, putting money into different assets. And eventually, they put that money from the house into a good investment that pays them regularly. They moved to Italy. They now live their dream life. Their kids are learning Italian. They're living in their hometown where they were raised. You know what I mean? They're living by the ocean. They're spending a lot of time with their kids. Their house in Woodbridge is rented. They did not sell the house. They rented it out. That's now putting money in their pockets, paying their mortgage and positive cash flow for them to live a good life in Italy, along with all the other assets and investments that they've built. So a phenomenal example of like how your mind, when you start to see things differently. I had $1 million business idea today on the plane. Is why I love traveling, because you see money with your mind. Everything's in your mind, right? I'm not sure that I'll take the time to execute that particular business, but it's all in the mind. So changing your mind, transforming your mind, the way you see money, the way you see your assets, your cash flow. Like when you change that, everything can change and your life can be a lot better.
I learned a lot from just listening to you talk about this, Michael, and a couple of thoughts came to mind. I think in addition to the book, you should create like an online course. Take what you've said to me, each chapter of the book, flush it out a little bit, turn it into a course, and start selling it, because then you can make money from that while you sleep, right? And you don't need to interact with people. They just buy the course, $500, $1,000, whatever it is, and you make money from that. And that's going to be valuable for you. Secondarily, I think you should have an investment mastermind, and you should say, look, I'm a professional investment advisor, and I've made this much money for this many clients, and I'm running a mastermind, and there's two ways to be in the mastermind. You can either pay to be in the mastermind, or you can commit to X number of dollars that you let me manage for you, in which case then you're in the mastermind for free. So I don't know what that number is. You got to figure it out. Maybe it's 500,000, maybe it's 300,000, who the heck knows? But I think you come and you put that together, and this mastermind, this could be something that doesn't take up a ton of your time here. And, but it's a chance for you to teach these concepts, teach these ideas, give people some advice on particular investment options that are hot, and just say, look, I'm not giving you investment advice. I'm just telling you 3 or 4 things I'm doing for my clients. That's all you do. That's how you got to phrase it, so you don't get yourself in trouble. But then the people in the group, they can start bringing ideas to one another, and you make everybody sign waivers that says, look, you're not responsible for anything that happens, et cetera. And they got to assume that risk fully themselves. But that would be a beautiful thing. And that kind of mastermind could be, I don't know, $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month for somebody to join. You get 10, 15 people in it. It becomes something powerful. And I think over time, it could become quite a bit bigger than that. But I think you could sign up 10, 15 people for that. Lickety split. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And
that's a great idea.
It really is. It really is. Your ideas are good. Your explanations are good. Your stories are good. I want to see you put together about a half a dozen stories. So I'm going to interview you again. We're going to have you come back on the show. And all I want you to do for that interview is I want you to go and come up with a half a dozen stories. So you're just going to come for each asset class. You're going to have a story for each asset class. And that's how you're going to bring it forward to people. And then bring the concept of the mastermind to people, man, and put it out there. Start putting it out there. Couple of your existing clients that have a lot of money, make them your anchor mastermind clients, right? Because they're already spending money with you. You're not going to ask them for new money, but they can help you attract other people. And I think that's value.
Right. Yeah, it's cool. Why, can we finish this interview though? Or we're
Oh,
like
of course we
through
can. But part of the interview is not dead right now, brother. I just like when you shared all
it.
this,
Just
like, hey, that I put my hat on. I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. I learned a few things
yeah,
myself, and I thought to myself, well, how can I help Michael like leverage this in a bigger way? So those are my thoughts.
that's
But
cool.
so
Well, let's
so
continue. I like it.
continue
Let's
on with a
yeah,
second story. Give me a second story.
sure. So what I what I love about what you shared and what you said is that like sorry, math is the language of money, right?
Yeah.
Math is the language of money. That's what I love about this. There's a woman who I worked with, let's call her Katie. She does like to remain private because she's also she's got a big name. She's got a great business doing costume design. She's like niche in costume design for classical periods, for classical pictures. So any movies or plays or like things that you see where it's like really old, like 1800 stuff, like
Yeah,
settlers,
yeah.
colonialization. She's got a
That
business
sounds
doing that.
super cool, man. I'd love to meet her.
Yeah, it's super niche. So what she's done actually is she's built a business doing that. Now what she's done is she's replicated her work and taught and trained other people to do the same thing. So she basically gets money for licensing, she gets money from passive income from her staff who go out and sell, who go out and do these kind of things. She teaches people how to do these classical costumes based on these historic periods. So she can narrow it down to like 1800 to 1850, 1850 to 1890, 1900 to like 1930s, right? She can go through all these time periods now, and she has these models, she has these courses, she has these outfits, thousands of drawings, thousands of costumes, examples that she's used for this for these time periods, which they're constantly making. Amazon, like YouTube, like Netflix, obviously, Apple, they all need content. So she really positioned herself really well about 7 years ago when I met her. Now I do the financial coaching. What she's done on the business side, I only sprinkled a little bit of dust. She's done most of that herself. But what we did was we turned the business into a corporation that then pays her dividends. She can tax defer that money also later, and she can sell that IP, if you will, that intellectual property at a later date. Her business also has invested in tons of assets. So if you have a business and you have a corporation, you can do something really cool called a 3-to-1 loan. So you can do a leverage 3-to-1 loan where if you put in 20 grand, you can get 60 grand as a loan, which for your business is not income. And then that money that you're paying interest on the loan is also a tax write-off. So she's been able to increase her asset base huge by hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing this a few times and doing this 3-to-1 leverage loan in a non-registered account that's not tied to any SIN number, and it's not like a RSP or a TFSA. But by using the money
Smart.
wisely in her business to invest, she was able to kick up her net worth and her asset base by a couple of extra $100,000 in a very, very, very short period of time. Now she loves what she does, so she's not retired. She's not like, stopping the work. She loves what she does, but she's built this asset base in the business, which she can sell or just like live off of, take the profits. She can take it as dividends, which is a more tax favorable asset, or sorry, as a more tax favorable, income strategy and tax strategy. So she's not done, but she's pretty much indestructible because she's made this niche for herself through business and through building the worth and the value of her business by investing that money wisely in the markets with these extra 3-to-1 leverage loans that we've done a few times.
That's pretty darn smart, man. I like it. I like it. She sounds like she's got a cool business. She's leveraged her IP. Super smart. Um,
Yeah, it's the power of niching,
she
right?
she ask her if she'd like to be interviewed on the podcast. I'd like to interview somebody who's built their IP in such a unique way. Good thought leadership stuff. Um, okay, great. Now give me another one. Give me another story.
Well, myself, I've used life insurance to combine with other asset classes. So the first way that I made a good chunk of money was back when I was doing the financial advising and the life insurance and the crypto. I was kind of doing all these things at once, juggling all these hats. I would take these loans against my own life insurance policies and allow that money to be used to invest it in crypto, which is also a tax write-off because I'm paying interest on the loan. So
Really?
anytime you use money to invest as a loan, you're getting a tax break and a tax write-off. I love tax write-offs and I love tax breaks because The more that I do that, the more money I put back in my pocket. The more I don't have to pay in tax, the more I get to keep in my pocket. I don't have to give that to the government. I get to put that, back in my business, back in my investments. So the first time I did it, I took a simple, like, $4,000 life insurance cash value policy that I built up. And I took about $2,500 and I bought some crypto with that. I bought some Bitcoin with that. And I did that several years ago. That $2,500 investment turned into over $25,000. That was a really cool, simple, easy, just let time work its magic tax hack and investment hack. Then I did it again because, you do what works and just repeat, rinse and repeat. I did it again. I had another insurance policy for about, $5,500. And I took that and I got another loan and I got, over $4,500 of that. Because that's the other thing I forgot to mention that's really cool about life insurance is you can get a higher loan to value ratio than real estate. So in the economy, in the market's eyes, life insurance is actually a more reliable investment than real estate. Get that. In real estate, you can only get 70% typically at a bank. A private lender might give you 80% on the high end, but life insurance you can get from 75% to 85 and even 90% as a loan because it's the most reliable and like indestructible asset in existence. So I took that second one and I took about $4,500 and invested that again, and that turned into another $16,000. I can keep doing this as much as I want, and I can take as many life insurance policies as I want. This is like a printing machine, a money printing machine. I'm thinking about the infinite banking concept.
Yeah.
The man who wrote the book, The Infinite Banking Concept. You can bank on yourself an infinite amount of times by doing this because you don't have to ask anyone for permission. The life insurance contract is on your life. So you're the asset, you're the product, and you're the policy owner as well. So you can do this as many times as you want on yourself. So I've done this on myself a few times. I've got clients that do this as well. I've got lots of clients that do this every couple of years because these policies just grow and grow and grow in value.
So,
and like a good house, you can just take a loan against them, without needing any.
so if someone has a $500,000 life insurance policy, let's say they bought 15 years ago.
Yeah.
They can get a loan on that? How much?
That's right. That's right. So there's two factors. It depends on the cash value, which is the investment value, and then there's the death benefit. So if the death benefit is $500,000, you can't get the $500,000. You can get whatever the asset value or the cash value is. So you just email the company and ask them for a statement. What's my current cash value? They'll send you a statement. If you bought it 10, 20 years ago, you should have, depending on how much you're putting in each month, you should have many thousands of dollars.
What if it's a term only life insurance policy?
Term only policies do not give you this option. It's only universal life and whole life policies that give you this option.
Okay, got it.
Nothing wrong with term. Term is good, but it doesn't allow you to do this leverage loan ability because what's good about term is you get the largest amount of coverage for the cheapest amount of cost, right?
Yeah.
So you can pay like $50 or $100 a month and get $500,000 or $1 million in coverage, right? So that's good. And the other kind is the one with the asset value that allows you to be leveraged.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
It's a fantastic tool. It's highly underrated. It's definitely misunderstood. One of the things that the book walks people through is not just the 5 assets of how to become financially indestructible, not just my journey of rebuilding myself up twice after these 2 giant failures, but also it gives you the basic financial education we should have got in school. The one that school will never teach you, the one that your bank manager or your bank person doesn't have the time to sit down and teach you. But what it talks about is the financial house as a basic example of how to build your financial house in the proper way. And the aspect that we most neglect is the aspect that is most important, which is the protection level. So after you have income, that's your foundation. You need to protect that income and make sure that you have the right protection products in place to protect you should anything happen to you, because your income is what your family and your whole financial house is dependent upon. But the thing that people neglect is I need to protect that income. If you had a toaster that spit out $5,000 every month in your kitchen, you do everything you could to protect it. You probably wrap it in gold, put a bill on it.
Wrap it in gold. I like that. That's awesome.
Right? Tell the kids, stay away from this. Don't touch it. Don't mess with it. Leave it plugged in, whatever. Because every month, cha-ching, it pops out $5,000. That toaster is you, right? Your whole family depends on your financial income. So you need to protect that income in as many ways as possible. An insurance policy that pays you for disability, one that pays you if you die, one that pays you for an accident, one that pays you for an illness. You know what I mean? I fell off a bike in France this year. I couldn't work for 2 weeks. I was freaking propped up with my leg in a cast in a bed. You know what I mean? At least 2 weeks I couldn't work. So you got to protect your income. The thing that the wealthy do is they buy tons of different kinds of insurance policies as soon as a child is born, because they know that that is the moment when the policy will be the cheapest. And with that amount of time, you'll get the most bang for your buck, and that money can grow in the investment type that we discussed earlier called whole life. So the thing that people neglect is the thing that we need to do the most, which is protect that which you depend on most, which is your income.
No, amen. Amen. Beautifully put, my man. So show us the cover of the book, brother.
Physically, I don't have it. Remember?
Yeah. You're gonna show your digital copy.
Oh, shit, dude, that'll take a minute.
Yeah, all right.
That'll take a little bit.
So while you're doing that, listener, Michael Santanato, michaelsantanato.com is his website. Make sure that you go check out the website. His new book, Financially Indestructible. It's full of a lot of great advice. I'm picking up a copy. I'm actually going to pick up a few copies, hand them out to friends and family and clients as well. And I recommend you do the same. Books are a way to spread knowledge. Books are a way to show love. And in this day and age, not as many people are reading books. But if you're a thought leader or you're aspiring to be a thought leader, you need to be a reader, because leaders are readers and readers are leaders. And that's what you got to understand.
Amen, brother. Absolutely. I live by those same principles as well. I just finished a great book by Robert Kiyosaki called Second Chance. I'm going to be doing tons of videos on all my learnings from that book. Like, whoa, dude, what a 1,000 worth of gems in that book that he's got. And then just started reading Marcus Aurelius Meditations.
Nice.
So amen to that. Leaders are readers. But I've read a few of your books too. They're great, man. I've read like three of yours, I think. Finish Line Thinking, the podcast book, the one about America, making America great again.
Oh, yeah. How to Become Fellow. Look at that. Look at that handsome fellow. Eh? That's a good looking fellow. That's a nice looking book. So How to Become Financially Indestructible. It's available on his website, michaelsantanato.com. It's going to be available on Amazon as well. Make sure you pick up a copy. So, Michael, we end every episode by asking you, our guest expert, what are your top 3 expert action steps? These are your 3 best pieces of life or success advice. Bullet point, truth quickly form. Go.
100%, brother. No problem. First is everybody on planet Earth should have a financial advisor. The wealthy have multiple financial advisors. I'm out here campaigning, doing every book, podcast, anything I can do just to get people to have one financial advisor. Well, the wealthy, the 1%ers, they got one for taxes, one for real estate, one for crypto, one for stocks, one for life insurance, one for every single area of personal finance, cash flow, taxes, everything. I'm trying to get people to have one. Everybody should have one financial advisor, at least. That would be the first. Get a financial advisor, someone you can talk to, someone you can trust. Number 2 is taxes in North America represent 30 to 50% of your income. So you got to find ways to reduce your taxes. I'm big on taxes right now. We just incorporated taxes as a service into our business right now. Tax advisory, tax planning, tax filing, because it represents, especially for Canadians, 30 to 50% of your income. For the wealthy, taxes are a primary thought. For the poor and the middle class, taxes are an afterthought. That's backwards. That's nonsense. Think about taxes first. How can you reduce your taxes? That should be an obsession of yours throughout the year, throughout this time period, January, February, March, which is tax time. So number 2 is pay attention and prioritize your taxes. Because like I said earlier, the more that you invest, the less that you pay, the more that you keep in your pocket, right? Number 3 would be read. You know, like you said, leaders are always readers. I read 20 books a year. I think you read 200 books a year, which is amazing.
Not quite, but
well, I saw your Goodreads this year. You read like 100.
It was over 100, over 140. Yeah, it was good. It was good year. It was good meeting you.
No wonder you're a gangster and you're crushing it and you're doing good in the world. And you know, you're getting posts through Trump and you're getting work done for Iran and things like that. No wonder, man. Readers are always leaders. So number 3 would be read. You know, grab a copy of the book, 20, 30 bucks for my book. For 20 years of my life of like nothing but investing and different businesses that have failed and different businesses that have succeeded. I've shared it all, bare bones. Divorce I went through, how to pay less money to the government, how to get the government to pay you. That's in my book. You know what I mean? Like, so number 3 would be read as many financial books as you can. Everybody should read, you know, at least like 5 financial books in their lifetime, right? And I try to read at least 2 a year. So money books pay dividends. Money books will pay you for life. They'll pay you long term, because the one thing they can't take away from you is education. And I'm obsessed with financial education. So give yourself the gift of a financial education. Read lots of money books.
Love it. Money Michael Santanato, thank you for coming on the show. These are fabulous expert action steps. And listener, he's the real deal. Check out his website, michaelsantanato.com. And if you have a friend who could benefit from this message, share the episode with them, okay? And honestly, give us likes, give us ratings, give us reviews. We put this show out for you. We don't ask for payment. The payment we ask for is that if it was good, give us likes, give us ratings, give us reviews. Help us get the algorithm working in our favor, because this gets it in front of more people. Until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.